Good evening and good afternoon. It's Shirley with Spirit of Matter in a very special episode today. So, I got the permission from Peter, the founder of this very website, to do a Spirit of Matter episode with his chart. And his chart is public. But I wanted to kind of make sure I have the permission to play, and I do. So this is an evening which is already making it a Venus night, right? Because yesterday was Jupiter night and now it's Venus night with Venus hour, but Venus is retrograde, and this is why I said attempt number one. Venus is in the 7th house here, right on the descendant. Ascendant is Saturn ruled with Saturn retrograde. The midheaven is Jupiter ruled with Jupiter in the 4th house. So, Luna is applying to Pluto and is separating from a trine to Uranus and the sextile to Neptune. Okay. So that is kind of the Venus itself is 27 degrees Leo. She is applying to Lilith and to a square with Uranus, and she's trining the nodes. Okay, trining Rahu in Aries. So this is the chart of the moment. And without further ado, let's take a look at the chart of basically the person who made this website alive. So the reason why I wanted to do this episode was to show something. And if you can take a look at this chart, perhaps you can understand already what I wanted to talk about, okay? So, the ascendant and the midheaven are Mercury ruled. Mercury is retrograde in Taurus, okay? Separating from conjunction with Mars and with Chiron, and applying to conjunct the Sun in Taurus in the 9th house. So let's begin with the beginning, okay? Both the ascendant and the midheaven are ruled by Mercury. This Mercury is retrograde in Taurus. Now, what do we know about Mercury? Mercury likes to be in Virgo. It likes to be in Gemini. It does not like to be in Pisces, where it's fallen. It does not like to be, although it can quite function in Sagittarius, it's detriment in Sagittarius. But Taurus, the thing about Taurus, Mercury is a very fast-moving planet that adapts itself. Okay? Basically, it works well with mutable signs in the mutable axis. But Taurus is a fixed sign. It's a fixed earth sign, but particularly what's difficult for Mercury is the fixed sign. Okay? Mercury moves so slow in Taurus. And you remember when we had the Mercury retrograde in Taurus, there were a couple of days where it seemed like somebody stretched the time so much so that a movie became a single frame that you thought would never move to the next frame. So Mercury Taurus is basically not considered something that you would expect in the chart of a person who is busy doing meticulous detailed work, like comprising this, or coming up with a website that makes a lot of calculations that have to be very accurate so that other people can work with this program. But this Mercury is not only in Taurus, it's also retrograde, which Mercury retrograde, we know that mundanely is kind of like where documents get messed up, where communication gets messed up, where things fall apart. where we would not expect a Mercury retrograde with a person who works with technology and basically programming something that has to be meticulously thought out and executed and 24/7 live and working, which is this website. It's called Astroseek. It calculates all the weird stuff that we do in astrology. And so the minute I saw this, and this is not the end of the story, this Mercury is in conjunct in Neptune, which is the planet of blurry boundaries, okay, of blurs. I have a Mercury trine Neptune and I get confused with simple calculations, okay? So imagine the in conjunct, which is even more disturbing because it's a disharmonious aspect. And it in conjuncts Pluto and Saturn, okay? That being said, and so this episode is a big myth-busting episode with this in Mercury, because we tend to think that if a planet is not in its like most dignified or exalted or at home, then it won't operate that well, and oh, maybe this person can do other things with their chart. Maybe they want to be artists, maybe this, maybe that. But we would kind of like not predict that this is a person who will be working with programming, algorithm, okay, accurate computation that has to be 24/7 live, building a structure that is based on this, building a program that is probably one of the most used in our community, okay? And this happens when that which is slow and meticulous, as well as kind of revising and reflecting, becomes from a challenge to an asset, okay? So let's talk about the Saturn-Pluto. Okay, we have a Saturn-Pluto conjunction in the second house in Libra. And no wonder it's a Venus, because Venus here is in the 10th house, in 11th house, sorry, in Cancer, trining this Pluto and Saturn. Okay, the ruler of Pluto and Saturn is trining Pluto and Saturn. And she is also ruling this Mercury, Mars, Chiron, and the Sun. Okay, so Venus is happy in Cancer. Venus is happy in Cancer. The temperatures of Venus and the temperature of the moon that rules Cancer are compatible. The moon is a bit cooler, but all in all, they're very compatible. Venus is about connections, bringing things together, composing, okay? The moon is about drawing things, manifesting things, bringing something from point A to point Earth. And this moon is actually leaving a hard aspect with Venus, but already separating. Now, Saturn-Pluto. Pluto is something transforming something. So this person basically has a skill of transforming. And I'm going to say something that sounds very, very big, but I'm going to take it down to earth, compatible with the energy of the chart. Transforming relational structure. That's a big word that could be used for like many things. But here, Saturn is structure. Okay? Saturn is structure of something. This also means that this native has the ability to diligently work at something, yet because Saturn here is retrograde, it would not be a usual structure. Okay, it is not a person who would, if it was direct Saturn, I could say this person could be, let's say, a lawyer, or if with this Saturn Pluto, maybe even a psychologist, or somebody who delves into the structure, the depth of the soul of a structure of something, and works very diligently at transforming it. But both Pluto and Saturn are retrograde. This tells me that whatever I just said is going to take an expression that is unusual. For people, it may take even segments in their life where they change and rechange the type of skill that they do or the way that they do things, for which astrology is a great remedy because it is moving with the spirit of the times. So Saturn Pluto transforming structure in Libra, relational, can also be economic, okay, because Libra is trade. And there is a trine relations between the ruler Venus, and Venus is in Cancer, so Venus is at least happy. She does oppose Neptune here, but this Saturn Pluto sextiles Neptune. Okay, so it's very. This tells me that whatever this person is coming to do, the skill in the second house, they can be very successful doing that. Saturn Pluto is something that takes very long and is something that is you should never underestimate. I don't know what Peter does outside of Astroseek, but even Astroseek, okay, but even Astroseek. And there is also a trine relations to the nodes, which tell me that what he came here to do has to do with what he does for a living, but also the skill that he executes. And now this in conjunct to the Mercury and also to Mars, but first to the Mercury that I just mentioned, tells me that this work is not only detailed by the merit of Saturn, but is also to do with trade, communication, the relation between things. It can be as or connecting all kinds of things, but in a way that is not direct. Okay? Had all these planets been direct, I would say, oh, maybe this person is a banker or develops something or writes or teaches about beauty because it's, Taurus, aesthetics, philosophy of aesthetics or something like that, or even the aesthetics of war with the conjunction here, with the presence of Mars very, very close to our goal. And yet we see that this inconjunct, which is the aspect of inconjunction is basically, think of water and oil. Okay, when you have something inconjunct something, it's kind of like water and oil. And yet, what we have is basically what we do see is a program that changes the accessibility of people to the astrological profession, because we can get all the advanced technique that you can ever think about free by a person who, this is their leisure time. I'm going to touch on the fifth house soon, which is also ruled by Saturn, unsurprisingly. But this basically revolutionizes what we can do, even if we can't afford, like the minute we have a cell phone and an internet connection, all we have to do is log on to astroseek.com and play around with that, and we can yield professional research, professional readings by a person for whom that's their leisure time. Okay? So this is something very unique, very unusual. Okay? It's not a donation-based site. It's not intended at receiving an income. It's basically leisure time, creative freedom, and that's what's behind Astroseek. So and another way that I can look at it, if I see this in conjunct also to Neptune retrograde, is that with this creation or with the skill that this person does, there is something spiritual, which can be translated as astrology itself, because astrology itself can be both this Mercury, okay, because astrology is a mercurial science, um, and this Neptune, which is basically looking into the great vast, the great mist, and finding some sort of sense within it that is very difficult to describe in words. Um, and that's the first point. Okay, I got this slide. Basically, somebody said that Peter checks every technique that he puts into the program. He checks it first, he applies it first, and only then puts it into the program. And you can see here with the second house, Pluto Saturn is very diligent, is highly diligent, and Mercury Taurus give us a step further to breaking things down. You know who else had Mercury Taurus direct, I think, in the ninth house was Richard Feynman. And what was Richard Feynman known, other than what he did, is the Feynman method, where he would break everything down. And he would teach every concept that he wants to learn. He would basically teach it to somebody or teach it to himself, and that is how he would learn. Okay, so meticulous work, breaking things down, taking it slow with information. And that is exactly what Peter does here, except that he takes every technique that he learns, and it's not just, oh, I read about this in some book, let's put it in there. It's like, hey, let's see if this works applied. And after he sees that it does work with experiment, okay, then he puts it in the program. So again, never underestimate the power of a Mercury Taurus. Okay, it's slow and steady wins the race, but here is not only from this Mercury. This Mercury is, by the way, also separating from a conjunction with Mars. Sharp mind, step by step. This Mars is slow moving. And again, this very tricky in conjunct to Pluto and Neptune becomes an asset because he puts the time and he puts the diligence to make it work. So this is very impressive. More things. So Jupiter-Uranus. Okay, the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Both Jupiter and Uranus are retrograde, which is yet another fascinating factor. The moon here is exactly trining Uranus, moon in 7 degrees Aries from the 8th house, and Uranus in the 4th house, whole sign speaking, not too far from the IC, and very, very close to Jupiter. So 1 degree between Uranus and Jupiter is a very tight conjunction. Jupiter-Uranus. Okay, before we go to the retrograde, Jupiter-Uranus together, we're going to have them in Taurus. I think later, I don't know if 2024 already will have the conjunction. Uranus, first of all, not only that it rules astrology, but before that, it's technology on a mass scale. If you think about the type of, technology that changes the user experience, or that changes not only the user experience, but also the way people live. And in here, it's even make a living. You think about Uranus per se, and Jupiter gives us a belief, a philosophy around this technology. Okay, so Jupiter-Uranus, think about ideology meets technology. 4th house tells me that this is either elementary, because it's it's not grave and it's not that, and it's not directly housing. So I'm taking the fourth house significations that are relevant, and this is like elementary school, okay? Um, and this is a technology that brings the complexity of astrology into the very elementary kind of like the very elementary school students, okay? It's like even if you don't have the money to go to a fancy school, or you don't have the money to buy a fancy program, you can get started, and this is no less than any program you find in the market, and it's all very accessible. So Jupiter Uranus here in the fourth house gives us also a technology that is foundational, okay? Foundational. So on the level of this program, the way it is manifested is basically this website is the foundation that we build on when we apply astrology, okay? Because I can listen to podcasts all week, but I don't get to the nitty-gritties until I don't cast a chart myself and try to delineate what I see, okay? So this is if let's say people like Lara Duncheva or Chris Brennan with the Astrology Podcast, or the many astrologers that deliver so much free information as a part of their marketing, allow us to learn astrology even before we gather the money to enroll ourselves in a course. Here we have the program and the technology that allows us to do it, to observe ourselves, and to even do research ourselves, and to develop the skill of astrology applied ourselves. So fourth house is also foundations, and the technology that is foundational, in this case to the teaching or to the learning of astrology. The Jupiter Uranus is very, very potent. I'm not gonna say what I said about it in Taurus because, respect. But let's say when it comes to the good instinct of Jupiter, and as applied with technology, it's a very, very fertile combination for the sciences, for technology. On a mundane level, it can be a religious revolution, which is not necessarily, not necessarily the best, but on the level of technology, on the level of, hey, now there is this website that you can go to and you can access even from the most ancient techniques to the most modern techniques, to various branches and types of astrology, to literally everything astrology that you can think of, that would cost you a fortune to even get by. Even if you did know how to calculate charts, it will cost you a fortune to learn how to do this, or to get the program that can do that and that and that and that and that and that and that all together. And now you have this foundation at the tip of your fingers, literally. So this is no less than the, I think Jeff Bezos, no, not Bezos. I don't remember. Never mind. So this is no less than any founder of. It's no less than any founder of whatever it's social media or iPhones or IBM or whatnot, but it's actually way more, because these guys never managed to deliver something free to the world that is not a hook trying to hook the fishes, okay? It's not a worm on the hook trying to hook the fishes. This is genuinely there for us, okay? This is just somebody's leisure time there for us. This is what they do as a hobby. And you can see with the Capricorn 5th house that is ruled by this Saturn in the 2nd house, it means what this person likes to do, their skill, is something that they really enjoy. And what do they enjoy is, Capricorn is the sign of climbing a mountain. Okay, I don't know the hobbies of Peter, but I would not be surprised if he told us it's a mountain climber, because with this one he can absolutely be one. So when Saturn, on a productive and spiritual level, people say the hardest thing to do, that you are very, very lucky if you get to do it, is to get what needs to be done to become something that you like, that you want to do, that you enjoy doing. So having a 5th house Capricorn can be bittersweet, because when you come to do to your leisure time, you run into this gloomy Saturn. But the flip side is that what needs to be done is actually enjoyable. So, and here, can you think about another person who would take all this much time, all this much dedication to give us everything about astrology that we are just, free to use, not trying to sell us courses, not trying to sell us products, not trying to do anything like that. It's like a miracle. And as I'm saying that, I'm guided to also take a look at how nearly all the personal planets, and with the wider orb, all the personal planets, are so intimately tied with the outer planets. So we had a conversation on Twitter with Pluto. Somebody got angry that their clients want to be receiving readings for a Pluto transit. And I said, bring them over to me, because if an outer planet interacts with your inner planet, whether by transit or natally, it means that the personal is the transpersonal. So on what is relevant to this program, okay, I'm not going to do like an in-depth reading of stuff I don't know, but what is relevant to, let's say, Astroseek, just to think that Peter's skill, Peter's joy, okay, like the 5th house, Peter's moon, which is basically self-care, okay, is so tied in with Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and to a lesser degree even Saturn. Okay, every single thing that this person feels, thinks, does, and believes in is a part of the spirit of the times. So when you think about this program, this Astroseek program, where you can do astrology, if you have a phone and you have an internet connection, you can do astrology. You can give a reading. You can, if you are giving paid readings, you can get paid. You can break the glass ceiling of the profession of astrology, not only in terms of intelligibility and accessibility and inclusivity to neurodivergent people. And this also sparks my mind in the sense that, we're having Rahu in Aries now. And this sparks my thinking in the sense that how is inclusivity achieved, and the dissonance behind it, because to be inclusive basically requires a lot of skill. Okay, to give us this program required a person who is highly privileged in their ability to birth this into fruition. Okay, they're birthing a Saturn baby here. Okay, it's like birthing a mountain. This is to keep such a program so well arranged and so on spot and constantly, that's the type of stuff that you get teams upon teams of employees doing. And even then, there are bugs, there are hacks, there are this, there are that. You have just a single person kind of single-handedly beating the world and doing this. um, so there's a person who is so highly privileged in the sense of their ability to found and run this website, and because he's using his extra ability in favor of humanity, we have inclusivity. Okay, so this is also honoring the understanding that those facilities that we require as neurodivergent people, that whatever reasons, whether it's brain function or trauma or both, can't do these, calculations or the very accurate, detailed work or whatnot. And we are drawn to astrology, therefore, because we're looking for patterns within that which doesn't seem to have patterns. That is assisted by somebody who has this ability, not disability, this ability to be kind of like the mountain climber that climbs to the top of the mountain and then kind of puts a camera there, and now we can all see what he sees. Okay, so literally every person on planet is very tied with an outer planet. If you think about astrology as the connection between celestial bodies and their holistic implications upon daily lives, you understand how astrology is also quite Venusian. It's not for nothing that Venus and Mercury were used interchangeably in esoterics more than thrice. So this is how the skill of transforming relational structures becomes something that also touches at our belief system, because as we encounter data, as we encounter these charts, we can transform the relational structures in our life per se, okay, depending on how do we apply it, but also our outlook, the way we see these relations. Transforming relational structure also in the sense that you don't have to be this highly privileged person in terms of both your skill and your funding to do this very meticulous work, okay? You don't have to be a mathematikoi, where you once had to be, in order to give accurate, valuable readings to people. Okay? So that is another thing that comes to mind. And as you can see, this is a chart that, if, let's say if Peter would say, oh, I need a reading, I have this Pluto transit, or I have this Pluto Saturn Venus being activated or something like this, I would not dismiss him or try to convince him not to use outer planet, because everything outer planet is very tightly connected to every personal planet. And so by merit of this person, like being alive, whatever they do in life is also a part of the spirit of the time, and it can also be remedial. So in general, when you have outer and inner planets contacts, it's usually benefic that you do something for more than yourself, and that allows some liberations. Kind of, if you think about planets as carrying a certain karma in the chart of a person, a certain energy force, then spreading that karma or spreading that energy force by doing something in favor of humanity on a mass scale helps you to find outlet for this much energy around your personal planets. So yeah, a very mercurial chart. And also quite Jupiterian, okay, with this Jupiter Uranus. As for the nodes, we have Rahu in the 10th house, ruled by this Mercury again. Rahu with Venus, which is the ruler of the house of skills. So whatever this person is doing, they're meant to go there. It's something that's exciting for them. They have this, hunger to keep on developing, keep on growing, keep on adding layers and relations and facets and learning about this. Ketu with Neptune here in the 4th house, sextiling. I don't have anything smart to say about this, okay, about this Ketu Neptune, because in relation to like Astroseek, but it does tell me that, for example, I would not be surprised if Peter himself has psychic abilities or something like that. So yeah. Anything more about this chart? So also Mars here, Mars in Taurus. Mars in Taurus is in detriment, right? Mars rules Scorpio and Aries, and so the sign opposite is detriment. And again, what we would expect from Mars in Scorpio, we would say, oh, this Mars can't quite operate here, it wants to go fast and furious, but Taurus is slow and steady. How will it operate? It will just, it's like if it gets frustrated, it will only work even more diligently and even more passionately, contributing to building a structure here that constantly needs rejuvenation, constantly needs to be tended to, and this Mars is able to perform it. Okay, this Mars is able to act on a very substantial level to build something. Okay, it's consistent drive, and with Mercury, it's consistent drive that has to do with the skill of where words and symbols and language become an action that creates something substantial in the real world. And so Astroseek is basically one of the significations of that, because it takes programming. And programming in itself is a very innovative use of language. And it brings us all these, symbols that are very substantial, that we can apply our skill thanks to what we see here on the screen. Yeah. So I'm not gonna go into like terms and asteroids here. Let's see if I see anything. Well, Mars is close to Algol. I don't see any relevance to Astroseek in particular. And Pluto is basically realigned to Spica. I would be cautious to interpret something here. Jupiter is 2 degrees, is separating from a conjunction with Antares. So it is within orb. But again, okay, I don't know what it means for Astroseek. So this is not about the fixed stars here for this particular Okay, scope of discussion. Um, mm, mm, mm. And as for the asteroids, I want to put this chart on Astroseek to see it. But this is, I think, good enough for the purpose of this conversation. So, takeaways. If you're looking to delineate a chart of somebody who does something technological, innovative, that changes the relations between people in the field and makes it accessible to the wider public, you're obviously dealing with the person who at least have the relevant personal planets very intimately tied with other planets. Okay, um, that's for starters. And B, if you think that Mars in Taurus won't operate as well, would get frustrated and leave it, or get unnecessarily aggressive, Mars in Taurus can also be programming this. That Mercury retrograde, Mercury retrograde, and probably there will be problems with communication or with technology. Mercury retrograde in Taurus in the ninth can absolutely be this. Okay? So, for all of you people out there looking at your own charts, looking at dignity, and saying, oh my God, my planets are not dignified, they're not exalted, they're not at home, they're retrograde, they're stationing, just observe. Okay, it doesn't mean that you can't do something very meaningful. And for all of you people that thinking, oh, the outer planets, they don't matter, they don't matter if they are not in contact with your personal planets. You're just not going to feel like you. Maybe you're going to see something on the news, but you're not going to be the news. And when they are, the way to live a good life is to integrate what its outer planet came here to do. So what did Pluto in Libra came to do? Transform the relations um, between people, transform the notions of art, of beauty, transform the way we do trade, and transform laws as well. Okay? What did Uranus and Sagittarius come to do? Revolutionize our sense of freedom, revolutionize religious philosophies, revolutionize religion per se, revolutionize technologies even around fertility, and bring the spiritual quest to the masses. Okay? If you think about what did Neptune in Sagittarius come to do, well, that's a bigger question. It moves slower, but think about freedom and drugs, or freedom and how imagination is important to a free man. How free imagination is important to being a free man or a free woman. How channeling, or how is observing that which we don't look at philosophically as real actually very foundational, if I connect it with this fourth house here, very foundational to our sense of joy and ease and security. Okay? So that's the story here. And when you take your chart, if you have this connection, you take your chart and you're doing what this outer planet came here to do by the mean of expressing it with the personal planets, now you are on your way to live a more rich life, to work with the energy instead of being overwhelmed by the forces of the outer planets here. So just things I like about this chart. As a person who has a natal Pluto opposition Venus, I really like to see a Pluto trine in Venus with his Venus in Cancer. Um, I really like to see the relations between Pluto and Saturn and the nodes here. Um, mm, 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 mm. Of course, the Jupiter Uranus is something that, when it's not practiced as religious revolution fundamentalist, Iran shit, like what we have in Israel, then it can be a source of tremendous joy and a great joy doing astrology. Okay, so that's something I like about this chart. Um, I like that the moon here trines Uranus. It allows us to really manifest the Uranian wisdom with joy and relative ease, although the moon is in the eighth house, which is still the eighth house. But you see, the ruler is in the ninth, so a person teaches of the occult, which is a hidden science that is the eighth house. So, a great wisdom about the foundational structures of the occult science that is astrology is no longer occult now because it's no longer hidden. Um, mm, mm, mm. So, yeah, that's just a little bit of a refreshing look that we have here. Moon Aries, by the way, also tells me that self-care for this person is something that is either athletic or that is very active. Okay, and here we see the results. So yeah, Mercury, we talked about this. And thank you very, very much, Peter, for doing what you like to do. Basically, you are doing what you enjoy doing. It's for us. Some of us are living. For others, it's the means to regulate our own moods and stuff because this is what we like doing. Um, and yeah, it's kind of basically when a person is just doing themselves, a lot of people benefit from that, and that's just very honorable. And of course, thank you so much for making your chart available, for making your website available, and for allowing me to play with this. So thank you so much. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. This is far from doing justice to this chart, or but I said I'm going to do this anyway, even though Venus is retrograde, and yeah, but I'm going to do this anyway. So yeah, thank you.